Hello, everyone. This is Pastor Greg. Joining me today is Dr. Marks, and we are going to be discussing another interesting subject, which is, in the beginning, who created God?
It's a common question.
Right? And before we even start this, I think we should really quickly recap our prior video and naturalism, right? And so naturalism is the perspective that everything in the world around us came about by natural means. Like all the natural stuff we see going on has always been and all there will be. But the reality is...
that would be another definition of eternal. Just so you know.
Oh, sure. Okay.
You asked me about, well, what do you mean by eternal? You just described eternal.
Sure. So with naturalism, basically, it's the perspective we could be here by natural means. But when we disconnect from our emotion, we disconnect from our personal way we've been brought up. If you just look at the world around you, we can't be here by natural means. It's physically impossible. And if we want to base our perspective on science, we have to be honest about the science, which is something had to break the rules for us to be here in the first place. So with that being said, let's dive into the question, in the beginning, who created God then? Because he had to have had a cause, right?
No, and that is the answer right there. God is uncaused, does not owe his existence to anything or anyone. He's the foundation of all reality. That would be the answer to that question. So you really only have two options. Either the universe as we see it is eternal because nothing cannot do anything. So nothing is nothing. If there was ever a time that there was ever truly nothing, there would always have ever been only nothing. Because nothing can't do anything.
Makes sense.
So either the universe is eternal or there is a being who is eternal. Those are your only two options. That exhausts all of the possibilities that we can talk about.
So we would agree, in all simplicity, that something has to be eternal. You couldn't have gotten here by nothing.
Correct.
So something had to have violated all the rules that we know of today, regardless.
Exactly.
Right?
And that is the answer to that question. Who created God? No one. God is uncreated. People kind of freak out about it, but picture it kind of like this. Picture a chandelier. You're familiar with a chandelier, a lamp.
Sure.
Okay, hanging, from a chain. So many chain links it attaches to the ceiling. Now, how many chain links do you have to have in order for it to hang?
Depends on the height.
It doesn't make any difference, does it? Yeah. If I am one link short of the ceiling, will it hang?
No.
No, it absolutely will not. In other words, it doesn't matter if I had 10 trillion chain links. If it doesn't attach to the ceiling, it doesn't hang. It doesn't work. In the same way, we have effects that had beginnings. And that chain of cause to effect, cause to effect, cause to effect, doesn't matter how long you stretch that out. If it doesn't attach to a foundation, it won't hang. It won't work.
Sure.
You have to have a foundation for the law of cause and effect.
Another dynamic to that point that you just made really blows my mind, and I know it's just kind of one of those things that's difficult to get our minds around. But Einstein figured out, right, with his theory of relativity, that time itself changes. Time is not a constant, right? And so when we stop and think, okay, what does that have to do with anything? That's really big implication, because the answer, essentially, in other words, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the reason why God doesn't have to have a cause is because he's outside of time.
Precisely correct. That is what Einstein demonstrated, and I'm here to tell you he didn't like it. The implications
it's very
of his
uncomfortable
theory,
if you're trying to make our existence off of natural means, and then you want to come throw a bombshell that says, oh yeah, but time changes and everything you believe.
Time is not infinite.
That's crazy. So like, as an example, an astronaut, he's used to walking on the earth and the levels of gravity, right? And then he goes to the moon, and gravity is less because the body of mass that he is walking on is smaller.
Right.
So now his gravity changes. And in the same way, time changes. Just like gravity changes, time changes. So that all of a sudden makes everything seem confusing, but I think it also gives peace of mind to the fact of feeling more comfortable with accepting the cause of all things has to be eternal.
Exactly.
And eternal is okay.
Eternal
It's
is
not
okay.
just we're jumping off into the world of superstition now, right?
Exactly right.
Because I think a lot of people, including myself, years back, I used to think, okay, well, just because we don't understand something doesn't mean you have to jump into the world of superstition. Maybe we just need to wait and get more puzzle pieces, right?
Yeah.
But scientifically, we can prove that our existence has to be from something eternal. So it's either the universe as we know it or God.
Those are your only two choices. That exhaust all your possibilities.
And I think most scientists would agree that, like you were just saying, nothing doesn't do something.
It doesn't do anything because it's nothing. It's
So
no
how,
thing.
how would a singularity form all this order in the world we see it?
Exactly correct.
You know?
Yeah. The math just doesn't add up. I mean, there was, for a long time, there was different theories on trying to explain away the concept of first there was nothing and then bang, big
Sure,
bang, there was
sure.
everything. Trying to explain it away, the oscillating universe theory, the steady state theory, and all of these theories have failed. The Big Bang theory still is the most effective, but it has some limitations too, and I don't want to get into
Sure.
any of that here. But the bottom line is it demonstrates that at one point everything did come back to a singularity, and that prior to that there was either absolutely nothing or there is an uncaused cause that is outside of time, space, and matter.
Sure. And in conclusion, if we were to sum this all up and say, so in the beginning, who created God? So we discussed that the physical universe as we know it, or God, it's one of the two. Those are our only two options, right? Or some type of God, right? If we were to zoom it out to all the options. We have to fall back on some type of eternal thing. Most scientists would agree, saying that the universe is eternal is really uncomfortable because it doesn't even make sense when you really think about it. And the reason why we can actually feel comfortable saying that a God of some sort created the universe is because time changes. And so the very lens of time that we're looking at, he's outside of it. And so it's not a huge leap of faith to say a divine being created it in the first place.
It's not a big step of faith at all, because again, the physical evidence is overwhelming that the universe is not eternal. Everywhere we look, we see the demonstration of the fact that it is simply not eternal. And knowing that, and knowing that you can't get something from nothing, it is not irrational to say that there is an uncaused cause of all other things. And since an effect can only resemble the cause, and an effect can only have what is given to it by the cause, since we have beings in this universe, then God must be a being. Since we have intelligence in the universe, God must be intelligent. Since we have persons in the universe, God must be a person. You can line all that up, and that's a whole nother discussion too on what is God like. But the bottom line is, it is not an irrational position to say that there is a God. Not at all.